Warning, if you clicked on this video expecting a hate-filled rant on a movie you heavily disliked, then please get out. This won't be that kind of review. What you are about to see is something different. If you're open to a new perspective, then stick around. I hope you guys enjoy the video.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's your host, Mr. Cinegang Production. Today we're gonna do another movie review, and this one is a big one. In fact, it's one of the most polarizing and most controversial film of all time. And no, before you ask, this is not gonna be a Serbian film or another Michael Bay explosion fest. We're not gonna talk about Transformers Age of Extinction or The Last Night. Nope, this time we're going to dive deeper into the world of superhero films. The movie we're gonna be reviewing is Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, specifically the Ultimate Edition, directed by none other than Zack Snyder. Alright, so I'm gonna be clear about this. This isn't just gonna be another typical review. We're not gonna talk about the theatrical cut that got torn apart back in 2016. We're reviewing the Ultimate Edition, a version that actually improved the film in major ways. But sadly, it gets ignored way too often by critics and fans who love to hate on this movie. This will be the second installment of the Snyderverse saga we're reviewing here on the channel, and I gotta say, I am genuinely excited to finally break this one down. Why? Because this movie has been one of the most misunderstood and unfairly trashed movie out there. Critics, fanboy, elitists, you name it, they all taken their shot, and honestly, I'm just sick and tired of seeing this movie getting dogpiled. That's why I'm making this video, not just as a review, but as a breakdown, a discussion, and yes, I'm gonna debunk to some of the most common criticism out there. So if you're ready for a deeper look at a film that has been dragged through the mud after 9 years since the movie release, grab your popcorn, sit back and relax, because we're about to go deep into Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. But first, let's talk about the build-up, the hype, the backlash, and the world post Man of Steel before this movie even hit theaters. So back in 2013, Man of Steel completely changed my perspective on Superman as a character. Before that, I never really connected with Superman as a character. I always thought he was extremely lame and boring, but Zack Snyder came along. He showed me a more grounded and more serious and more matured, conflicted and more relatable take. So I was extremely hyped. I keep asking myself, when are we gonna get another Superman movie? Are we gonna see villains like Lex Luthor, Brainiac, or other villains, whatever? Is this gonna rival against the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And is there any chance that Christian Bale is gonna return as Batman? Man of Steel left me with so many questions. I was dying to see what came next. And here comes San Diego Comic Con from 2013. I was extremely hyped. Zack Snyder announced a follow-up to Man of Steel, and this time he is bringing my favorite superhero of all time, Batman. Not only we were getting a sequel, we were getting Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, two of the most iconic superheroes in history, finally sharing the big screen in live action. But here's the twist. They were not teaming up, they were going head to head, and nobody knows why. Naturally, I had a million questions. Is Christian Bale coming back as Batman? Is the Dark Knight trilogy somehow canon to this universe? And at that time, we didn't know. It was all up in the air. Fast forward to 2014 or maybe 2015, I also cannot remember the exact year, but that when we got the casting announcement, Ben Affleck was going to be the new Batman. And look, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, because my first reaction was pure confusion. I was like, wait, who's Ben Affleck? He looked familiar, but I couldn't really remember him. All I could think of was like, where's Christian Bale? I was still emotionally attached to Bale's Batman. That was my Batman, the one I grew up with. So yeah, I was really skeptical, but I asked myself, Alright, let's give Ben a chance. Maybe he will prove me wrong. Then we got more casting news. Gal Gadot was cast as Wonder Woman. At first, I was neutral on it. I knew her from the Fast and Furious movies where she played as Giselle, and I thought she did a great job. Then here comes the biggest curveball of all. Jess Eisenberg was cast as Lex Luthor, and honestly, I was kind of skeptical. I mean, when I thought of Lex Luthor, even as a kid who wasn't very familiar with Superman's villain, I imagined him as a cold, intimidating, bold billionaire, not Columbus from Zombieland. Like, how is this skinny guy supposed to be Superman's greatest enemy? But then again, I reminded myself, don't judge too early, maybe Jess Eisenberg will surprise us. So, the first look of Ben Affleck wearing the Batsuit, standing next to the Batmobile, I was completely mind blown. To me, wasn't just any Batman. He was completely menacing, brutal looking Batman I have ever seen. The internet loved to make joke on how sad he really looks. He looked kinda goofy and silly, but to me, I saw Frank Miller's Batman, the same grizzled war-worn Dark Knight from The Dark Knight Return. And the Batmobile, that thing looked like a complete monster. I can wait to see it in action. Then we got Gal Gadot in full Wonder Woman gear, and it sealed the deal. She looked very powerful, regal, and ready for war. They finally gave Wonder Woman the respect that she deserved, sword, shield, and all. When I first saw her in full costume, I was completely impressed. The armor was stunning, like a modern day Senna the Warrior Princess, with sword and shield in hand. It looked completely badass. Whoever made that design decision was completely genius. And just like that, my hype reached maximum level. Alright, so fast forward to April 18, 2015, the release of the official teaser trailer for Batman v Superman. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. The first time I watched the trailer, I was losing my mind. I was jumping around my room, completely so hyped out on my mind. It was pure goosebumps from start to finish. It was straight up cinematic adrenaline. The trailer opened with this mysterious chilling vibe. We see the statue of Superman in the middle of Metropolis, surrounded by people debating him like he's some kind of god or devil. The news clip, the political discussion, the fear, the worship, it all hit me hard. And then the camera slowly zoomed in on Superman's chest, and boom! Spray painted across in its bold letters saying, "For God." I was completely froze. The visual gave me full body goosebumps. It was so haunting, so powerful. That one shot told you everything. The world didn't know what to do with Superman. They feared him as much as they admired him. But the trailer wasn't done yet. Next we see Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne standing alone in the Batcave, staring at the Batsuit. There's no words, just this broken silent intensity. It was dark, gritty, and so Batman. Then the action kicked in. Quick shot of Superman in the sky, Batman charging into battle, the Batmobile tearing through street, explosion, chaos, drama, and then the line that sealed the deal. Tell me, do you bleed? You will. Oh my gosh, man. When I first heard that, I completely lost it. I was shouting, jumping, pacing around the house like, this movie is going to beat Marvel next year! I was convinced this was going to be the movie that changes everything. I remember texting and calling all my friends saying, this is going to be the best superhero movie of all time. I was beyond excited. I remember walking into the theater, absolutely bouncing with energy. My dad had to keep telling me to calm down. My inner fanboy was in full force. This was the moment fans like me had been waiting for our entire life. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman all in one movie. I genuinely believe this is gonna be the best movie of 2016. I can feel it. Walking out of the theater with my dad, I was still processing everything. And honestly, I thought the movie was fine. Not bad, not perfect, but definitely enjoyable. The action was solid, the cinematography is great, the CGI and the visual effect is also great. The soundtrack absolutely phenomenal. The acting, the characters, everything is great. But the story is kind of a bit messy and choppy, but there was still a lot to appreciate. I generally had a great time watching this with my dad. When I first heard that Batman v Superman had a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, honestly, I don't really care. I don't understand why many people put so much faith on Rotten Tomatoes as some kind of final judgment for a movie. Like, seriously, why do we keep treating this website like it's the ultimate authority on what's good and what's not? Every time, man, every freaking time, when somebody said that it got 28% on Rotten Tomato, it must suck, I just brush it off. I tell them, like, please do not rely on Rotten Tomatoes, they can be completely biased. At the end of the day, what matters is your personal experience. Time passed, the hate just keep rolling in. The movie wasn't just criticized, it was mocked, ripped apart, and turned into a complete joke across the internet. And yeah, I'll admit it, I was heartbroken. Well, maybe heartbroken and devastated sound very dramatic words, but that's just how I felt. Because here's the thing, I generally thought that this movie was alright. Not perfect, but it had its moment, it had its heart, it had its ambition. It gave us something different. And yet, all I keep hearing were complaints like, this movie is too dark and serious. The plot is confusing. Why is Superman so brooding and edgy again? Batman kills people. That's not Batman. Lex Luthor was weird and annoying. The pacing is a mess. Martha, 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 Martha. And then there were the classic comparisons like, it's not like Marvel. Where are the silly jokes? Where's the fun? This movie ruined Superman and Batman legacy. Reboot the whole thing. Zack Snyder is too pretentious. He's trying to be deep, but he fails miserably. And the more I heard the same criticism repeated over and over again, the more I started to feel isolated. I began to wonder, am I the only person who actually liked this movie? Should I feel ashamed for enjoying it? Do I have to pretend to hate it just to fit in? It messed with me more than I like to admit. Eventually, I had to take a break from the internet altogether to protect my peace and stop letting the negativity eat away at something I genuinely enjoyed. But it got worse. I had a friend from real life who would mock into my face saying, ew, you actually like that movie? Seriously, that trash? Shame. Marvel is a lot better than this trash. Captain America Civil War has like good rating or whatever. They weren't just joking, it was kinda cruel. And the more they laughed, the more uncomfortable I felt. It just kept getting worse and worse until I didn't even know how to feel anymore. And you know what? I have to admit, I ended up hating on this movie. Not because I truly hated it. I just had to fit in. I did it to be accepted, to avoid the bullying, to dodge the judgment, to make sure I wasn't singled out. And yeah, it works. It was sad, but it was successful. I had to pretend to join the hate bandwagon just so I wouldn't be the weird one who like BVS. I told myself it didn't matter, that it was just a movie. But deep down, I know I wasn't being honest with myself. I was very young and naive and unsure of who I was or what I stood for. I just didn't know what I was doing. But then when the Ultimate Edition dropped, and just like that, I was excited again. I felt like that same spark I had back in 2013 when Man of Steel first came out. The hype, the love, the curiosity, it all came rushing back. And let me tell you, the Ultimate Edition completely fixed everything. The story finally made sense. The pacing felt natural. The characters had actual development. Motivation were clearer. Scenes that were confusing in the theatrical cut now carried weight, context, and emotional depth. Clark's investigation into Batman, completely expanded, Lex plan more coherent, Superman inner conflict given room to breathe, Lois Lane's subplot was actually mattered. Suddenly, it didn't feel like a messy rush movie. It felt like a fully fleshed out epic, a movie that took its time to tell a complex, character driven story. Yes, it was 3 hours long, but every minute of it felt worth it. When the credit rolled, all I could think was the world completely owes Zack Snyder an apology. And to be fair, some people did come around. Some haters apologized, others rewatched it and said, hey, this isn't actually bad. But the internet, I don't know. My friends, they still hated it. They still call it too pretentious or trying too hard to be deep. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Because this version of the movie, it absolutely blew my mind. And no joke, I don't care what anyone says. This is one of the most important film of all time. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Not just to review the movie, but to talk about why it matters. To debunk the most common annoying criticism, to share my love and passion for the story, the characters, the cinematography, the CGI, the themes, everything. But first, I think we're gonna have to go deeper into the plot analysis. I'll try my best to make it sound good, because I'm not good at explaining, but whatever. So the movie opens with a beautiful haunting retelling of the Wayne murders, a scene we have seen before in other Batman adaptation, but this one feels more cinematic. Thomas and Martha Wayne are gunned down. A young Bruce runs, falls into the cave, and we get that symbolic, almost dreamlike shot of him rising as Bat swirls around him. It's not just a flashback; it's a tone setter. This isn't gonna be your typical comic book movie. It's poetic, tragic, and grounded in motion. Then we cut to the chaotic finale of Man of Steel, but instead it's from Bruce Wayne's perspective. He underground in Metropolis during the Kryptonian invasion, watching helplessly as building collapse and people scream. This scene alone changes everything. It gives Bruce Wayne personal trauma, his reason for hating and fearing Superman. He is not just angry, he is watching innocent people die, his employee crushed in rubble, and he's powerless to stop it. This turns Superman from a hero into a threat in Bruce Wayne's eyes, and that grudge simmers throughout the rest of the film. From here, the movie begins to build a world reacting to Superman. We see Superman save Lois Lane in the desert, which caused an international political incident. The news media and politicians start debating whether Superman should be held accountable for the unintended consequences of his intervention. Was he saving people or endangering them? At the same time, Lois began investigating a mystery. Someone is framing Superman for death he didn't cause. This subplot add a layer of political intrigue and began to expose Lex Luthor manipulation behind the scene. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne is deep in detective mode. He's tracking a mysterious figure known as the White Portuguese, and he's slowly uncovering a larger conspiracy involving LexCorp and illegal weapons shipments, particularly a sample of the kryptonite, the one thing that can harm Superman. While all of this unfolding, Lex Luthor is working in the background, acting eccentric, manipulative, and scheming. He gained access to General Zod's body and the crushed Kryptonian ship. You don't know his full plan yet, but it's clear he's pulling strings on all sides. Alright, so as the story progressed, the world became increasingly divided on the question of Superman. In Washington, D.C., Senator Finch, played by Holly Hunter, who also known as Elastic Girl from Incredible or whatever, is pushing for a public hearing to hold Superman accountable. She's not against Superman. She just believes power should have check and balances. Meanwhile, Lex Luthor continued to manipulate his way through the system, lobbying government officials, twisting facts, and getting exactly what he wanted to access to the Kryptonian ship and that corpse. He even managed to import kryptonite from the Indian Ocean, claiming it for research, but we know what it's really for. A weapon that can stop and kill Superman. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne is getting more brutal and unhinged. This Batman we see here isn't the traditional no-kill vigilante. This guy is older, angrier, and he's branding criminals like cattle. Alfred, Jeremy Iron, who plays Cars, calls him out on it, worried that Bruce Wayne is losing himself. But Bruce is convinced that Superman is a global threat waiting to happen in his mind. If there's 1% chance that he's our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty. At the same time, Clark Kent starts questioning Batman's methods, especially the branding. He's trying to be a symbol of hope, but sadly it's not working. He's being criticized in media, manipulated in the public eye, and starting to feel so powerless and isolated despite all his strength. And then come one of the most haunting scenes in the film. Superman show up at the Senate hearing. Everyone's watching. It's supposed to be a civil democratic moment, an effort to hold Superman accountable and start a dialogue. But then something bad happens. A devastating explosion tears through the Capitol building. Dozens of people are killed. Superman stands there untouched. The media immediately turns against him. The public fear escalates to an all-time high, and it turns out the one who's behind everything is none other than Lex Luthor. Superman is overwhelmed with guilt, grief, and confusion. Disappear. This is his breaking point. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne finally gets his hands on the kryptonite. He starts forging a weapon he's preparing for war. And while all this unfolds, a mysterious woman keeps showing up. Diana Prince, aka the Wonder Woman. She's trying to steal back a photo from LexCorp that proves her hidden past. She's not quite ready to join the fight, but we can feel she's watching, waiting, and calculating. After the event of the Capitol bombing, Superman disappears. He retreats into exile, reflecting on his place in the world. He travels to the mountain where he speaks to his father, Jonathan Kent, in a beautiful poetic scene. This moment grounds Clark and helps him reconnect with the idea that doing the right thing isn't gonna be easy or appreciated, but it's always worth it. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne is all in. He's completed his kryptonite arsenal, a gas weapon, and a spear. He convinced that Superman is too dangerous to live, and Lex manipulation are pushing him further down the path. He even received forged intel from Lex's side to convince him that Superman is responsible for the Capitol bombing and other global disasters. That comes like ultimate move. He kidnapped Lois Lane and Martha Kent, forcing Superman into a corner. Lex throws down his plan. Superman must kill Batman, or else Martha will die. Now, Clark has no choice. He doesn't want to fight, but he has to face Batman. And this brings us to one of the most iconic and divisive moments in modern superhero cinema. The battle is brutal, visually stunning. You can feel the weight of every punches, every blow. Batman used everything in his arsenal, their kryptonite gas, the gadget, brute strength, and he almost wins. Superman tries to explain, but Batman is blinded by rage and fear. Then here comes the most controversial and most laughable scene that everyone loved to make fun of. Save Martha. The line that sparked endless memes, debates, and parodies, but also one of that, in context, it actually makes perfect sense. That single moment humanized Superman in Batman's eyes. Clark isn't just another alien threat anymore. He is a son, like Bruce Wayne. Their mother shares the same name, yes, but more importantly, it's a wake-up call for Batman. He becomes the very thing he swore to fight. He realized he's been manipulated by Lex Luthor all along. Bruce Wayne spares Superman, and in a major turning point, they team up to save Martha. Batman rescues her, what is arguably one of the best Batman action scenes ever put to film. The warehouse fight scene, brutal, efficient, classic Arkham-style Batman. But Lex Luthor has one plan. Using Zod body and Kryptonian tech, he created the most powerful and most unstoppable creatures, Doomsday. Superman, Batman, and now Wonder Woman, who finally entered the battlefield in full armor, team up to stop this new threat. Wonder Woman's entrance is absolutely electric. Her theme song blasted through the speaker as she blocks Doomsday energy blast with her shield, She's fierce, fearless, and finally take her place among these legends. The battle is massive, earth-shaking, but there's only one way to stop Doomsday. It's the kryptonite. Clark has to sacrifice himself, impaling Doomsday with the spear. Even as Doomsday stabs him in return, it's a tragic, heroic, and heartbreaking scene. So the world mourns for Superman. He's now dead. His funeral is quiet, somber. Lois receives an engagement ring Clark planned to give her. Batman and Wonder Woman attended, vowing to honor his legacy. Bruce speaks to Diana that we'll have to stand together. A time is coming. The Justice League is on the horizon. And finally, as dirt rises slightly above Superman's coffin, we are left with a glimmer of hope. So that's the end of the story. Now let's proceed. Alright, so after summarizing the whole plot, I think it's safe to say this movie is a complete masterpiece from start to finish. One of the things I generally love about it is how thematically rich and emotionally layered it is. The film begins with the death of Bruce Wayne's parents, a tragedy that defines him, and ends with Superman's sacrificial death, which ultimately restores Bruce's faith in humanity. That visual at the beginning of young Bruce being lifted toward the light by a swarm of bats might seem symbolic and surreal, but by the end, it comes full circle because Superman, through his selfless act, became the light for Bruce, that hope he had lost. What started as a journey of trauma and distrust ends in redemption, growth, and a spark of hope. That arc is powerful, it's poetic, and it's one of the many reasons I consider this film not just a typical superhero film, but a modern myth. And here's one of the most common complaints I hear is the story in Batman v Superman feels rushed, that we should have gotten a solo spin-off of each hero first, like what Marvel did. And to be fair, I get it. I completely get everything. People wanted a proper build up, a Batman solo movie, maybe a new Superman sequel, or even a Wonder Woman origin story before diving deep into this big crossover event. But here's when I'm gonna be honest with you. This wasn't really Zack Snyder's fault. In fact, I think people unfairly use him as a scapegoat when pointing fingers at the movie's pacing or structure. But if you really want to blame someone, then look no further than Warner Brothers. And yes, I can already hear the corporate shields typing angrily in the comment section, but hey, I do not care. It was Warner Brothers who rushed everything, not Zack Snyder. They wanted to compete with Marvel so badly, they forced the DCEU into overdrive instead of taking their time to build a proper universe with patience and care. Zack Snyder even talked about this behind the scene, how he originally had a longer, more methodical plan, but the studio pressured him into condense and fast track it all, and still somehow he pulled off something that, in my opinion, was epic. It's just frustrating to see people ignore the studio interference and still pin it all Zack Snyder, like he was the one rushing up to catch up to Marvel. And honestly, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I don't think the story structure was a bad idea at all. In fact, I actually love it. I love the way how the narrative was set up. It didn't feel forced or rushed to me. Not even Superman's death. If anything, his death was earned. It had emotional weight and real narrative purpose. Superman's sacrifice wasn't just thrown in for shock value. It was a turning point. It shook the world and it lit a fire under Bruce Wayne. His death is what inspires Batman to change, to finally believe again, and to carry Superman's legacy forward by forming the Justice League. And here's the thing, if you really pay attention to this movie, you'll notice that Superman spent the entire film saving people. He's not some detached god floating above humanity. He's in the mud, pulling rocket out of the sky, dragging ship to safety, helping people one by one. But despite all that, the world still question him. They judge him, they fear him, and in the end, he still chooses to save him. He died for a world that didn't believe in him. Tell me that isn't powerful, and don't even lie. When the funeral scene plays with the music swelling, the flag waving, and Lois placing the dirt on the coffin, don't tell me you didn't tear up or get goosebumps, because I know I did. And let me just talk about that scene for a second. The moment where Diana opened up that encrypted folder and we get a first glimpse of the future Justice League. I get total goosebump, actual goosebump. We see Barry Allen stop a robbery in a flash of lightning. Then there's Aquaman, who got caught on a deep sea camera, silently staring it down before destroying it with a trident. And then we see Silas Stone, Victor Stone's father, using his mother box to try and save his dying son, unknowingly creating Cyborg in that exact moment. That sequence was short, yeah, but it was impactful. The tone, the music, the mystery behind it, it feels like a comic book coming to life. Now, a lot of people online love to say that this movie is a bloated mess with forced cameos, but I strongly disagree with this take. Sure, the cameos were brief, but they served the plot. They weren't just shoved in for fan service, they were breadcrumbs, seeds being planted for what was meant to come next. Zack Snyder wasn't setting the stage for a larger narrative. And here's something I want to get off my chest. People always say that they should have given every character a solo film before doing the Justice League, but honestly, you don't need a solo spin-off for every character before introducing them in a team film. I mean, just look at Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Those stories introduced entire group of characters in one movie and trusted the audience to keep up. If the writing is strong enough and the character dynamics are clear, it works. And in my opinion, Zack Snyder did a great job doing just that. We didn't need to see Aquaman's entire backstory before this film. We didn't need a full Flash movie to know Barry is a fast, kind-hearted guy trying to help people. And we definitely didn't need a cyborg origin story in advance because Zack Snyder showed us that tragedy and sci-fi horror of his transformation in just a few seconds and it's landed. The problem is that most people are conditioned to think that every movie franchise has to follow what Marvel is doing. Solo movie, solo movie, solo movie, solo movie, and then there's a crossover event. But here's the thing. We don't have to follow what Marvel's doing. Because let's be real, DC and Marvel are completely different. They were built differently. Marvel is built cinematic universe from the ground up. DC had the opportunity to do something unique, something mythic, something operatic, something more stylish, more mature. And that's exactly what Zack Snyder is trying to do. He wasn't trying to copy what Marvel was doing. He was trying to be more original with his own specific vision. And just because something is different doesn't mean it's completely wrong. To me, the story of Batman v Superman isn't a myth. It's not a mess. It's ambitious, it's layered, it's trying to say something deeper than what we usually get into the superhero genre. And if you take time to stay with it, it's to really absorb the story and its symbolism, it becomes incredibly rewarding. Alright, so the scene that really caught my attention was the Black Theater event, but this time told through Bruce Wayne's perspective, and honestly, that scene was powerful. It grounded the chaos of Man of Steel and showed us the real human cost of the battle between gods. Watching Bruce run straight into the destruction while everyone else is running away, that such a subtle but powerful character moment. He's just a man with no powers, no bad armor, yet he's sprinting through smoke and falling debris trying to help people. That's the Batman we don't talk about enough. And then there's the heartbreaking moment when he saw Wally, a Wayne Enterprises employee, pinned and screaming under rubble. Bruce Wayne doesn't hesitate. He pulls him out. You can feel the pain when Wally realized that he lost his leg, and Bruce is right there, holding him not as Batman, but as Bruce Wayne, as a man trying to make a difference in the middle of something no man could possibly stop. Then comes another emotional gut punch. He finds a little girl standing alone, frozen in fear as a massive structure is about to fall on her. Bruce swoops in at the last second and pulls her to safety. The way he kneels beside her, holding her and asking, "Where's your mom?" only for her to silently point to the wreckage, it hits hard. That was one of the most human moments in the movie. And then he looks to the sky. We see Superman and General Zod tearing through Metropolis. Explosion, glass shattering, building collapsing. It's not epic, it's horrifying. Especially when you're seeing it through the eyes of a man who's helpless to stop it. That moment, Bruce staring up at Superman, not with awe, but with fear and suspicion. You can feel the spark of something deeper, that the moment the seed of resentment is planted, he's not He's not just thinking about saving people anymore. Now he's thinking about how to stop this from ever happening again. And that what make it so goosebump and chilling. You know that look in his eyes. You know that isn't just fear. It's planning. It's obsession. This is where his journey begins. Not just as a vigilante, but as someone who's preparing to take down a god. Now, my second favorite scene in the entire movie has to be the nightmare sequence. Now, the first time I watched it in theaters, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I was kind of confused as hell. One minute we're in Bruce Wayne's world, and then suddenly we're dropped into this post-apocalyptic wasteland that looked like something straight out of a Mad Max movie or a Fallout game. I was sitting there like, wait, what just happened? But despite the confusion, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It was horrifying, intense, and so immersive. Then, when I watched the Ultimate Edition, the pieces started to fall into one place, and it became even more creepier once I understood the implication. This wasn't just a dream, this was a vision of a possible future, a premonition, a terrifying dystopian timeline where Darkseid has conquered Earth. The world is consumed by death and ruin, and Superman has turned into a tyrant. The tone, the color grading, the silence broke only by distant thunder. It all built this heavy, oppressive atmosphere. We feel the weight of a world that completely lost hope. We see Batman alone walking through the desert in a long trench coat, leading what left of a resistance. He's searching for a weapon that could end this nightmare, only to be betrayed by one of his own men. And then we get one of the most brutal action scenes in the entire movie, Batman going full beast mode, fighting off Superman's soldier in hand-to-hand combat. It's chaotic, raw, and unrelenting. But just when you think he might win, the parademons swarm in from the sky, snatching people up and decimating everything. It all goes to hell in just instant. Then comes to the most chilling moment. Batman is captured, beaten, and chained up inside what looked like a devastated bunker. The music goes silent, the tension builds, and then we see him, the Superman, walking through the corridors, soldiers kneeling at his feet like he's some sort of god. Batman stares in horror, and then Superman says, "She was my world, and you took her from me." And without hesitation, he kills Batman with a punch to the chest. To me, that was one of the most intense and haunting scenes in the entire Snyderverse saga. Not just because of the action, but because of the emotional and thematic weight it carries. It's a vision of what happened when Superman loses Lois Lane, and then he became brainwashed by Darkseid. And the moment we see Flash appearing into the big screen for the first time, I didn't know that was gonna be Flash. I'm gonna be completely honest. I thought he looked different. He kind of looked like Iron Man, but whatever. I'm just happy to see the guy because I watch Flash and I like him. So him warning Bruce about fear him, whatever. I'm gonna be honest. I was pure goosebump. I like it actually. Honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest. I think it's safe to say that this whole sequence is just 10 times more horrifying and narratively impactful than Tony Stark's dream in Avengers Age of Ultron. Yes, I said it. Fight me in a comment if you want, but I stand by it. Zack Snyder went full on biblical apocalypse here and it paid off in spades. My third favorite scene in the entire movie would be the warehouse sequence. This scene is a masterclass in Batman action. Everyone talks about it, everyone praise it, you name it. And for good reason. This whole sequence feels like it was ripped straight out of the Arkham game and the Dark Knight Returns comic. The fighting style, the gadget, the brutality, the way Batman moves through the shadows and explodes into combat with such precision, it's exactly how I always imagined Batman would fight in real life. And let's not sugarcoat it. It's brutal as hell. We're not just seeing Batman punch and kick. We're seeing him slam goons through walls, those crates, grapple through the air, and use everything in the environment to its advantage. There's this raw animalistic energy to how you fight. Fast, efficient, unforgiving. It's the kind of combat you rarely see in a live action Batman movie. But what really elevates this scene emotionally is what truly gives it meaning. It's the context behind it. This isn't just Batman trying to beat up a room full of thugs for fun. This is Bruce Wayne fulfilling a promise. Earlier in the film, After the brutal fight, Superman, or rather Clark, pleaded with Bruce, "You're letting him kill Martha." That moment, the infamous, often mocked Martha scene, actually hits hard when you understand what it represents. It's not just about their mother sharing the same name. It's about Bruce Wayne realizing that he's becoming the very monster he's sworn to fight. So now in this warehouse fight scene, Batman isn't just trying to save Martha Kent, he's trying to redeem himself. He's fighting not just to save someone's life, but to keep a dying man's last wish alive. He knows what it's like to lose a parent, he knows that trauma it brings, and he'll be damned if he lets Superman go through that same pain. That's why this scene is so intense and personal. He's not just fighting to win, he's fighting because he can't afford to fail. Not this time. And when it ends, when Batman finally rescues Martha and she look up and say, "I figured the cape," it add a rare touch of levity that actually worked in the moment. It reminds you that Batman isn't just a monster in the shadow. He's a hero again. He found his way back. This whole scene isn't just an action highlight, it's a turning point for Batman's character, a moment of redemption, and one of the best fight scenes ever put on screen. Alright, so now let's talk about the action. Honestly, I think the action in Batman v Superman is pretty solid. It's very much in the same style as Man of Steel, fast, intense, visceral, and packed with impact. And no, I'm not complaining about that at all. I actually love that they kept the same tone and feel. It gave this shared universe a consistent identity. But sadly, I noticed something. They clearly toned down the action. Why? It's because of all the whiny outrage from people who couldn't stop complaining about the destruction in Man of Steel. People were upset about building collapsing, the city being wrecked, and casualty despite it being a battle between two characters. So now in Batman v Superman, you will notice that most of the big fight happen in abandoned areas or isolated zones. Clearly an effort to avoid any warrior backlash. It's frustrating honestly because this is a super movie with a mythic level character. And of course there's going to be destruction. That's kind of the point, but whatever. I respect that Zack Snyder still found a way to make the action engaging even with those restrictions. So what I really appreciate about the action in Batman v Superman that it doesn't try to undercut itself with comedy. There are no awkward one-liner, no quip every 5 seconds, and no joke during the moment that are supposed to be intense or emotionally heavy. This isn't gonna be like the MCU, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to start a Marvel versus DC war. I enjoy a lot of Marvel movies, but the constant jokey tone, especially in serious situations, can be a bit annoying and exhausting. Like, can you imagine you're in the middle of life or death battle, maybe even facing down a terrorist or watching a friend get hurt, and someone crack a joke like, "Well, that just happened." Really, that's not heroic. That's completely tone deaf and honestly completely immature. Not every fight scene needs to be a stand-up comedy set. Zack Snyder understands that. In Batman v Superman, the action scenes are treated with weight, intensity, and respect. You feel the danger, you feel the stakes. Every punch, every explosion, every stare down carries purpose. Whether it's Batman moving through tugs in the warehouse, Superman confronting the Senate, bombing Aftermath, or the Trinity facing Doomsday, the action is earned. It builds on character, it builds on story, and it doesn't feel like a filler. That's why I love the action in this movie. It's serious when it needs to be. It respects the tone, it respects the characters, and it treats the audience like adults who can handle emotion, conflict, and tension without needing a cheap laugh to break it. Superhero films, especially in today's over-exaggerated market, need to learn from this approach. Not every scene need a joke. Not every emotion need to be diffused. Sometimes it's okay just to feel something. And Batman v Superman isn't afraid to let us feel like that. The CGI in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is honestly pretty solid. It holds up from the action sequence to the environment to the way powers are visualized. But of course, one of the biggest complaints I constantly hear is about Doomsday design. Yes, I seen the meme. He looks like an orc from Lord of the Rings. Why does he look like a Ninja Turtle on steroid? Budget cosplay Doomsday. Look, I get it. The design might not be what everyone expected, but if we're being real, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. In fact, I actually like the way he looks. He's terrifying, menacing, raw, and he fits the tone of the film. He's not supposed to look polished or cool in a fan service way. He's a Kryptonian deformity. That literally what Lex Luthor calls him in the movie. That's the point. Now, I'm going to go full defense mode here because honestly, people are overhating. This version of Doomsday, he's not the final form. He's not the classic comic accurate Doomsday. Not yet. He's more like a fetus, an incomplete just born creature that was artificially created by combining General Zod's corpse with a Kryptonian technology and Lex Luthor twisted ambition. Of course, he's going to look weird, deformed, and unnatural because that's what he is. But what people miss is that he's evolving. If you pay attention, you can actually see him changing during the fight. After getting hit by missiles and blasted with energy, he start developing more bones like I don't know how to pronounce it. That's not coincidence. That intentional. He's growing into the most unstoppable monster we know from the comic. There's even a concept art that shows what a fully evolved Doomsday would have looked like. And yeah, that version looked absolutely horrifying. So when people complain about how he doesn't look right, it honestly feels a little bit silly and so stupid, like a parent complaining about their newborn baby doesn't have a full beard and a six-pack abs yet. This Doomsday wasn't meant to be finished. That's just part of the narrative. Also, here are some interesting rumors, even some hint from Zack Snyder himself, that this might not be the real Doomsday. This version is more of a prototype or a twisted clone of General Zod, and that a true Doomsday could still exist somewhere out in the universe. If that's the case, then this Doomsday was just a first taste, a warning shot of what really coming. So yeah, the design not perfect but not terrible either. It served its purpose to the story. And honestly, the way he fight, the way he just radiate destruction and chaos, he feels like Doomsday. That what mattered the most. So the soundtrack in Batman v Superman, it never fails to deliver. Honestly, it's one of the most emotionally charged score I have ever heard in a superhero movie. Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL, aka Tom Hokenberg, absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one. Every note, every sound, every beat just hit with so much intensity and emotion. It elevated the entire movie. I was especially excited to hear Hans Zimmer's return to compose music for a film featuring Batman again. At first, I genuinely thought that he might just recycle some of his legendary Dark Knight theme, which wouldn't have been a bad thing because let's be real, that trilogy had some iconic music. But nah, Hans went in a completely new direction, a fresh sound, darker and more mythic to match more the tone of this new Batman. And then we have Junkie XL stepping in, and boy, that surprised me in the best way because when I first heard that he was co-composing with Hans, I already know we were in for something different. Like, I immediately got a flashback from Need for Speed Pro Street. Yeah, that's where I discovered Junkie XL. The game had some absolutely bangers. The sound design was very gritty, high energy, and raw, and that the same energy bleed into Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice in the best possible way. So naturally, I expected that the score to be this insane fusion of epic orchestra power and electronic rage. And that exactly what we got. It was grand, it was intense, it was emotional, and at times it even felt biblical. Like seriously, listen to Beautiful Lie, Is She With You, or Men Are Still Good, and tell me that you don't feel something deep in your soul. One of my favorite scores from this movie has to be a handful of standout tracks. Beautiful Lie, Day of the Dead, and Must Be Their Superman. These aren't just background music, they're emotionally blueprint for the entire film. They're the kind of track that you can listen to with your eyes closed and visualize the whole movie unfolding in your head. It's cinematic storytelling through music. Let's start with Beautiful Lie. I honestly didn't think that Hans Zimmer could outdo himself. I mean, the same man who did some of the greatest film scores of all time. So, I had low expectation that he's gonna top any of that in this movie. But oh boy, I was completely wrong. Beautiful Lie hit hard. It opens the film during the Wayne family murder, and what makes it so impactful is its emotional restraint. It doesn't scream tragedy, it whispers it. The slow hunting piano builds into a melancholic storm of strings that feel hopeless yet sacred. It sets the tone for Bruce Wayne's entire arc, from trauma to rage to redemption. This one piece of music perfectly captures the emotional DNA of the movie. Then there must be Superman, from one of the most intense pieces in the entire soundtrack. It's dark and atmospheric and built the suffocating sense of tension and philosophical dread. It doesn't sound like your typical spirit score, and that's the point. It's not about heroism, it's about fear, doubt, and existential question about power, responsibility, and morality. The track feels like it draws inspiration from Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. It also had the same unsettling, almost alien vibe. And weirdly enough, there's even a touch of the Arkham Asylum style tension in it. That low droning dread that you can fully explain, but you feel it in your chest. But you wanna know what's my actual favorite soundtrack on the list? It's actually Lex Luthor theme. Now hear me out. From the moment I first heard, I knew something was off about it. In the best possible way, it was very twisted, it's erratic, it's chaotic. But here's the part that blew my mind. Lex's theme is actually a warped, perverted version of Superman's theme from Man of Steel. Let that sink in. Lex's theme borrows the same two-note structure from Hans Zimmer's Superman motif, but it flips it. The tone is darker, more aggressive, the tempo is faster and more manic, or I don't know. It's like someone took hope and twisted it into madness. It literally turned hope into hate. That kind of musical storytelling, what a freaking genius. It reminds me of how Prowler's theme from the Spider-Verse is a reverse part from, Miles Morales' theme. It's that same level of deep hidden brilliance, that kind of thing you might not notice the first time, but absolutely lose your mind over once you do. Yes, I forgot about the most badass entrance music in comic book history. Yes, I'm talking about the Wonder Woman's theme, officially titled Is She With You, and that iconic electric solo guitar riff that hit harder than a Kryptonian punch. The first time I heard it in the movie theater, when Diana jumped into Black Doomsday's blast, I got pure chills all over my body. The music kicks in and it immediately tells you she's not here to play, she's here to protect and fight. So what makes this theme so unforgettable is how unconventional it is for a superhero movie. It doesn't use sweeping orchestra or a triumphant melody like most superhero themes like Avenger or Black Panther or whatever. Nope, Tom Hockenberg and Hans Zimmer gave us something raw, primal, and feral. That screeching electric solo, layered with pounding drums and heavy guitar distortion, is basically mythical adrenaline. This isn't just a theme, it's a war cry. It perfectly captures Diana's warrior spirits. She's ancient, she's fearless, she's experienced, she's not amazed by Doomsday or scared of him. She smirks. That moment when she gets knocked back and she grins before charging back into battle, that pure Wonder Woman energy, and this theme reflects that perfectly. The coolest part is this was the first time we ever heard Wonder Woman's modern cinematic theme, ever. She never had a standout musical identity in film before this, and now thanks to this movie, you hear that riff and instantly know Wonder Woman has entered the battlefield. It's so iconic that they kept using it in Wonder Woman, Justice League, and even in trailers and video games. It became more of her musical brand. Also, I just love how this track isn't even subtle. It demands attention. It says, I don't need an origin story. I don't need a slow build up. I'm just here. Let's go. The moment when Superman asks Batman, is she with you? And Batman goes, I thought she was with you. That was pure cinematic history right there. If Beautiful Lie is the soul of the movie and Must There Be Superman is the mind, then Is She With You is the fire. Alright, so now let's dive into the musical theme of Ben Affleck's Batman. And oh boy, it was a complete departure from any Batman we have heard before. So what I truly love about this Batman theme is that it doesn't sound so heroic at all. There's no triumphant brass, no uplifting crescendos, no hint of light or hope. Instead, his theme is a lot more darker, more sinister, and more heavier, and more borderline terrifying. And that's exactly the whole point of his character as Batman. If you go back and listen to Danny Elfman's Batman theme from the Tim Burton film, it's gothic, it's dramatic, there's a mystery, yes, but there's still a clear sense that Batman is still a hero in the story. Hans Zimmer's Batman theme from the Dark Knight trilogy is intense and rising, like a symbol of struggle and willpower, like building itself from nothing, fitting for a Bruce Wayne still figuring himself out. But in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, this Batman is past all that. He's older, broken, hardened by 20 years of pain, loss, and failure, and his music tells you everything you need to know before he even speaks. Chunky XL, Hans Zimmer created a theme that feels more like a predator stalking its prey than a hero saving the day. It's driven by booming percussion, distorted string, and this eerie growling undertone that almost sounds like something is lurking in the shadow. There's this constant tension in the theme. It never resolves, it never lets you feel safe, just like the version of Batman we see in this film. This isn't the Batman of ideal. This is the Batman of rage, grief, and paranoia. Remember the warehouse scene or the branding moment? That music adds to the brutality. It doesn't rise in heroic glory. It descends into darkness. The theme communicates what Bruce has become. A man who lost his moral compass, operating in shaded gray, haunted by the past and ready to cross lines he never would have done before. And that's why I like to think that this music works so well. It reflects exactly where Bruce is mentally and emotionally at this point in his life. The lack of heroism in the theme is intentional. This is the Batman who's teetering on the edge, and here, the brilliance the theme evolved. You start to hear the subtle shift after Superman's sacrifice. In a quieter moment after the chaos, the music hints at renewal, at Bruce starting to find his way back. So yeah, Ben Affleck's Batman theme doesn't try to be cool or heroic. That's why it hits harder. It tells you a story of a man consumed by darkness, slowly being reminded what it meant to be a hero again. And in that sense, the music is just important as the dialogue or the cinematography in showing Bruce Wayne's arc. Alright, so now let's talk about Superman's theme. And let me tell you, this theme doesn't just sound like a superhero soaring to the sky. It sounds like a myth in the making. Hans Zimmer's Superman theme was first introduced in Man of Steel, carries over beautifully into Batman v Superman, but this time with a much heavier emotional weight. If in Man of Steel his theme was about becoming Superman, then in BVS it's about the burden of being a hero, and you can hear that shift in the score. Alright, so I'ma break it down. The core of Superman's theme is a track called What Are You Gonna Do When You're Not Saving the World? And Hans Zimmer masterfully built this piece using a soft piano, swelling string, and that now iconic two-note motif that's full of hope but laced with melancholy. That motif carries over into BVS and evolves appearing throughout the film in different ways. Sometimes grand and powerful, other times it's broken and haunting. What makes Superman's theme so effective in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is that it reflects how the world sees him, not as a savior, but as a threat. So instead of constantly feeling hopeful and bright, his music often sounds so conflicted, burdened, and somber. It's Superman struggling under the weight of the world expectation, trying to do the right thing, in a world that keeps telling him that he's wrong. Take that track Day of the Dead, for example. That scene where Superman saves people from a burning building and the crowd reaches out to him like he's some sort of god. The music isn't just epic or celebratory. It's quiet, almost tragic. It's just telling you that being worshipped isn't a victory. It's isolating. Superman doesn't want to be a god. He just wants to help people. And then This Is My World, which plays during Superman's sacrifice. That track is devastating. It starts soft, emotional, and slowly builds as he flies toward doomsday, preparing to give his life for a world that never fully accepted him. There are no words, just music. It says everything. You hear his pain, his resolve, his love for humanity, and as the music swells into the final crescendo, boom, he's gone, and you're left in silence. That moment paired with Dimmer and Junkie XL score hit on such a deep emotional level because the music make you feel Superman's inner journey from being feared to finally being understood and accepted only after giving his life. And that's why I will always defend the soundtrack of this movie. Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL didn't just compose music, they told the story through sound. Superman's theme is tragic, inspiring, and ultimately heroic. A perfect reflection of a man trying to do good in a world that doesn't know how to handle it. And honestly, this is gonna be my other hot controversial take. The MCU has a lot of great music, but few tracks hit with the emotional weight and narrative power that Hans Zimmer gave Superman. That theme stays with me and you. Alright, so let's talk about the visual and the cinematography. So, one of the things that I absolutely love about Batman v Superman is how it looks. This movie isn't just shot, it's crafted. Every frame feels deliberate, composed, and alive with meaning, unlike a lot of blockbuster films today that can feel very flat, exaggerated, and visually soulless. This film aesthetic actually feels like it came straight out of a graphic novel. I am talking about Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Return. I am also talking about Alex Rose's painting style. It's epic, mythic, and larger than life. Zack Snyder knows how to do a visual language and to tell story. And here, he's in top form. His use of contrast, silhouette, slow motion, deep shadows, and dramatic lighting isn't just for style. It's added substance. It conveys emotion, symbolism, and power. For example, the shot of Superman descending with the sun behind him, arms out like a messiah. That's not just a cool shot, it's symbolic, it's visual storytelling that says this man viewed as a god, but he's burdened by it. And yes, let's talk about the biblical imagery because for me, I love every second of it. And a lot of you so-called nerds online love to complain about the religious undertone. Oh no, Superman's being portrayed like Jesus Christ again! Well, guess what? Good, because that's the entire point. Superman is a modern myth, not a complete clown. He's our generation messiah figure. Of course, there's going to be a religious symbolism, and Zack Snyder leaned into it. You don't have to be religious to appreciate the metaphor. It's about sacrifice, faith, hope, and redemption. These aren't just church team; they're a human team. And when a filmmaker uses iconography to elevate a character's journey, that's not pretentious. That's complete visionary. Alright, so now let's talk about the cinematography because Larry Fong absolutely nailed it here. This guy's resume speaks for itself. Watchmen, 300, Super 8, and now Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. He brings his A game once again. His framing choices, his control of light and shadow, the way he staged scenes like a moving art panel, it's breathtaking. Think about some of the iconic shots. Bruce Wayne running into the dust cloud during the Black Zero event while everyone else ran away. Batman standing on top of the crane, lightning flash behind him. Superman floating above Capitol Hill surrounded by fire and judgment. The nightmare sequence with orange dust storm and burned out city. These shots aren't dull, they're bold, composed, immersive. They pull you into the world emotionally and visually. So whenever I heard someone say that the cinematography is great, life is lifeless, I have to ask, what movie are you watching, by the way? Because if you think that these shots are dull, maybe you're a complete idiot. You need to get your eyes checked. What Zack Snyder and Larry Fong did here isn't just your typical by the numbers cinematography. It's operatic, it's mythological, it has weight, and that's why the film feels so timeless. You could pause the movie at almost any moment and get a shot that looked like it belonged on the cover of a DC graphic novel. Okay, that's enough for my preaching. Let's move forward to the characters category. Henry Cavill, one of my favorite portrayals of Superman, and honestly, one of the most misunderstood and underrated version of the character ever put on screen. In fact, I go as far as saying that he's the black sheep of all the live-action Superman, and I don't care what anyone said, I will always defend this version. It's frustrating, it's exhausting, insufferable because every time I express how much I love Henry Cavill's Superman, someone came out of the woodwork telling me I'm completely wrong, as if there's only one way to interpret Superman. And the worst part it's usually from the same people. The one with a superiority complex who think that their headcanon is the law. These gatekeeping nerds act like loving Henry Cavill as Superman is some kind of crime. It's harsh, it's toxic, and honestly, it gets painful to deal with. But you know what? I don't care anymore. This version of Superman means so much to me. He matters. Henry Cavill brought so much depth, emotional weight, and vulnerability to characters. And yeah, I love this suit. Right, so now let's talk about the complaint that I keep hearing. The same surface level stuff that is repeated like a broken record, because I swear this nerd moans harder than a porn star. So here are the lists. Why is he so dark and brooding? Why does he only have like 43 lines? Why is he acting like a god? He said no one tastes good in this world. That's not Superman. Like seriously, is that even a critique? First off, the 43 line complaint. That's not even a real criticism. What does that even mean? Are we measuring the quality of a performance by how many words he said? Because if that's the case, I guess Tom Hardy as Mad Max was terrible, right? Because he only had a few lines. Or what about Keanu Reeves in John Wick? He barely speaks. Does that suddenly make it a bad acting? No, because these characters communicate through presence, expression, and action. Cavill Superman does the same. In fact, Cavill says a lot even when he's not speaking. Just watch his expression, his body language, the weight in his eyes during the Capitol bombing scene or the rooftop scene with Lewis. This Superman is carrying the weight of the world. He's not cracking jokes. He's struggling with being a symbol of hope in a world that doubts him in every turn. You think he's just brooding? No, he's reflecting. He's trying to figure out who is in a world that doesn't want him. He's brooding or moping doesn't mean he's completely edgy. People compare him to MCU characters and say things like, Peter Parker talks more than Cavill's Superman. Yeah, no kidding. Peter is a teenager. Superman is literally facing global scrutiny and moral judgment. Every time he flies, you want him to crack joke during the Capitol bombing. Imagine him turning around and saying, well, that just happened. That would be stupid, completely tone deaf. Not every superhero has to follow the MCU formula of cracking wise every second. Some stories are meant to be serious, and that's okay. Alright, so let's talk about one of the most controversial lines in the movie. No one stays good in this world. I'll be real with you. I genuinely don't understand why this line triggers so many fanboys. Like, what's the issue exactly? Some folks treat it like Clark just said no one is worth saving or screw humanity, when that couldn't be further from the truth. The context is important. That's what matters. And if you actually paid attention to the scene, this line comes from a place of pain, conflict, and emotional struggle, not from cruelty or nihilism. Superman still shoots to save the man who kidnapped Lois and threatened his mother, Martha. He still flies into battle against Doomsday. He still sacrificed himself for a world that rejected him, mocked him, feared him, and his final act, his death, is what ultimately inspires Bruce Wayne to change, to form the Justice League, and to try to be better. So tell me, guys, how is this line so out of character? Just because a character says something doubtful doesn't mean they're broken beyond repair. Let me say that louder. Just because a character says something dark does not mean it's bad writing. This line is not character assassination. It's not edgy for the sake of being edgy. It's not some grim dark nonsense like people love to claim and hate. It's a human moment. A moment of doubt. A moment where Superman, this godlike figure, this symbol of hope, whatever you call, is overwhelmed by the weight of the world. Sound familiar? Because if we're being honest, haven't we been there? We all had moments where we question if it even worth the right thing anymore. When it feels like kindness gets punished and cruelty gets rewarded. We doubted ourselves, lose faith in others, and felt like giving up. And yet, just like Clark, we push forward. We do the right thing anyway, because that's what being human means. That's what a real human being has to do, a real hero. And for those claiming this line is out of character for Superman, let's do some fact checking. Superman has questioned himself plenty of times in the comic. Even the Christopher Reeve version in the Richard Donner cut had a line very similar in spirit. And yes, there are stories where Superman is forced to face the harsh moral gray areas of the world and how even his ideals are tested by reality. But here's the thing, that never diminished him. It makes him stronger, more real, and more inspiring. That line, no one stays good in this world, is not a statement of fact. It's a reflection of how hard it is to stay good when the world is falling apart. But Clark tries anyway. That's what makes him Superman. So no, this isn't edgelord material. This isn't some Zack Snyder has ruined him moment. It's a man, a good man, struggling to do the right thing in a broken world, and still doing it anyway. You don't have to like this version, but let's stop pretending that a single emotionally honest line make him not Superman. Because if anything, that line and the choice he make after saying it prove he's more Superman than ever. All right, so let's talk about Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm gonna be honest. When I first heard that he was cast, I was skeptical. I didn't know what to expect. I was still very much attached to Christian Bale as Batman from the Nolan trilogy, and honestly, I didn't even realize that the time when Ben Affleck was cast, he was the same guy from Armageddon and Daredevil. I just wasn't super familiar with him. But then when I watched Batman v Superman, my opinion changed. From the first moment he stepped on screen, watching the destruction from the Black Zero event, I was stunned by his performance. He wasn't just some guy in cape. This was Batman, a broken, older, war-hardened version of the character. He brought a level of intensity, trauma, and presence that I hadn't seen before in live action. He reminds me of the Arkham game version of Batman. He brutal, silent, and terrifying. Frank Miller, The Dark Knight Return, older, angrier, no longer pulling punches, and Batman, the animated series. Well, not just in tone, but in the duality he brought to Bruce Wayne and the Bat. And yeah, he also nailed Bruce Wayne. He wasn't just brooding in the cape. He actually played the part of the billionaire playboy with a tired regarded charm. That duality, that hard to pull off, and he nailed it. After watching the film, I can honestly say Ben Affleck is my personal favorite live action Batman, right up there with Christian Bale and Kevin Conroy. Alright, so now let's address the criticism. Batman doesn't kill, he brand people, that's not Batman. Oh boy, here we go again. Let me go full defense mode. First of all, yes, he kills people, but context matters. This is a Batman who has been fighting crime for over 20 years. He lost people, he's a grown cynical Gotham has worn him down to the bone. He's tired, traumatized, and he's operating on a pure survival instinct. He's not out here executing people for fun. He's reacting like a soldier in a war zone. And if you're gonna cry about Batman's killing, then let's take a look at the receipt. Because Batman from the Tim Burton film, Michael Keaton, he threw a guy down a bell tower, blew up a guy with dynamite, and firebombed an entire building. Christian Bale, he killed Talia. He left Ra's al Ghul to die, and literally a machine gun vehicle in The Dark Knight Rises. Even in the comics, early Golden Age Batman was packing gun and dropping dudes off buildings. Let's not pretend Ben Affleck is the first Batman to break the no-kill rule. Second, the branding thing. This version of Batman is at his lowest point. That's literally the entire point of his arc. He lost faith in humanity. He gone too far, and guess what? He realized that Superman's sacrifice is what brings him back. By the end of the film, he's no longer branding criminals. He's no longer consumed by vengeance. He's trying to be better. That's called a character arc. You know, the thing that makes stories interesting. So no, again, just like Henry Cavill's Superman, this isn't out of character. This is a natural evolution of a Batman who has seen too much, lost too much, and needed something to reignite his hope. And that's what Superman does for him. You can prefer other versions like Robert Pattinson, that's fine, but to say that Batman is wrong, that's not a right criticism. Because if you really watched his performance, if you really paid attention to the layers, the paint behind the eyes, the brutal precision in the fight scene, and the way his entire soul shifted by the end of the film, then you realize Ben Affleck gave us one of the most complex, grounded, and unforgettable portrayal of Batman ever put on screen. Alright, so let's talk about Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Look, I am fully aware that there's a controversy surrounding Gal Gadot outside of the role, but this isn't about that right now. I just want to focus on her performance as Wonder Woman, and honestly, I love it. Gal Gadot brought a perfect blend of grace, mystery, and power to the character of Diana Prince. From the moment she'll show up in Batman v Superman, she steals the show even today. I still get goosebumps when she makes her entrance during the Doomsday fight. The team kicks in, and the lasso glows. She lands with the shield. That's pure cinema. Let's talk about her costume for a second. Unlike the star-spangled classic design, this feels more mythique, more ancient, and more authentic to her Amazonian warrior root. The muted colors, the leather textures, the bronze and golden armor, it feels like something straight out of Greek mythology. not a 1950s spin-off catalog. And the addition of the sword and shield, massive upgrade. It gave her that edge, a reminder that she's not just a symbol of peace, but also a warrior raised for battle. Alright, so I'm gonna address the backlash because, alright, so I'm gonna be addressing the backlash. Now, of course, cue the haters. Why does she have a sword and shield? Wonder Woman is a pacifist. Oh, really? Says who? Wonder Woman has always been a warrior and a diplomat. She's not just some typical Disney princess or dainty role model floating around spreading fairy dust. She's a timeless Amazonian warrior trained in combat since childhood. Even in the comics and in the 2009 animated film directed by Lauren Montgomery, she literally beheaded Ares. So this whole idea that she's suddenly too violent and beavis is just pure revisionism. She's not seeking war, she's finishing it. And there's this ridiculous one that I still remember. Where are her armpit hair? I swear, the internet will find anything to complain about. You're really out here criticizing Wonder Woman's armpit? That the hill you're dying on? Give me a break. So in the bottom line, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman with a bit of fresh air. She brought mystery, elegance, and ferocity to the role. She's not constantly joking, she's not overly sexualized, and she doesn't exist just to be someone else's love interest. She's her own force, and when she stepped onto the battlefield, you believe it. She held her ground against Doomsday, she held her own against Batman and Superman in her civilian identity, and she became one of the most iconic part of the DCE, whether people want to admit or not. Okay, so let's talk about Jess Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Now, this is gonna be controversial because a lot of fans were not happy with this version of Lex. I also was skeptical at first. A lot of people called him a Riddler ripoff, or he said that he felt like Joker than Luthor, and honestly, that's pretty understandable. But once you dig deeper, you start to see that there's more to this version of Lex Luthor than meets the eye. Here's what most people miss. Zack Snyder didn't just pull this Lex out of thin air. From what I heard and read, Zack Snyder based Jess Eisenberg's portrayal of Lex from the comic book called Superman Birthright by Mark Waid. In that version, Lex does have a long red hair. He's a bit unhinged, and he does walk the line between mad scientist and a manipulative genius. So far, all the Snyder get about not respecting the source material or whatever, this is one case where he absolutely did his homework. My honest take, after watching the film in full, especially the Ultimate Edition, I have to confess, I love this version of Lex Luthor. He's not your typical smooth talking suit wearing CEO Lex. He's more of a tech bro nightmare, a chaotic hybrid of Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and your least favorite startup founder role in Auto 1. He's young, he's eccentric, brilliant, and absolutely unhinged. That would make him terrifying. So, to me, what Jeff Eisenberg got right, he nailed the chaotic intellect of a modern day billionaire megalomaniac. He might not be the cool and composed Lex that we're used to, but he got something even more dangerous, raw, unstable, intelligent. He doesn't want to kill Superman, he just wants to prove a point. He wants to dismantle the idea of a godhood. He's not just evil for the sake of being evil, he's a control freak with an inferiority complex, upset with power and afraid of what he can't control. If God is all powerful, he cannot be all good, and if he's all good, he cannot be all powerful. That's not just a villain monologuing, that's a character unraveling, and just sold the madness, whether it was the awkward stutter, the nervous tactics, or whatever, or the twisted speech. He gave us a version of Lex Luthor that was fresh, unnerving, and tragically dangerous. So, here's the manipulation game. People love to forget this, but this version of Lex literally manipulated Batman and Superman into fighting each other, and he pulled it off without a brute strength or an army. He weaponized fear, grief, and trauma. That Lex at his core, not a brawler, not a supervillain, but a chess master. He forced Superman to kneel. He got Batman to nearly commit murder. He unleashed Doomsday as a backup plan. He planned it all behind the scenes. You can say whatever you want with the portrayal, but that kind of villainy, that speaks like Luthor. But he's still weird! Yeah, I know. That weird mouth noises, that twitchy monologues, that random Jolly Rancher scene. People hate that stuff, but honestly, I found it interesting. It showed that he's not just pretending to be eccentric, he's really is a little off his rocker. He's sociopathic with a daddy issue, delusion of grandeur, and the money track and all of it. And that makes him so dangerous. So here's my final thought. Jess Eisenberg absolutely committed to the role. He didn't try to copy Gene Hackman or Michael Rosenbaum. He brought something new, bold, and relevant. A Lex Luthor for the modern era, and the more I revisit the film, the more I appreciate what he did. Is it divisive? Yes. Is it misunderstood? 100%? Yes. But is it bad? No, no, not even close. He's toe to toe with the giant, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, and left a lasting impression for me that earned him a spot next to the greats. Alright, so let's talk about Jimmy Olsen. So yeah, this is one of the most heated moments among the hardcore Superman fanboys. A lot of people were genuinely pissed off about what happened to Jimmy Olsen in the African scene early in the film. You know, when he got shot by the warlord after being exposed as a CIA operative. And listen, I get it. Jimmy Olsen has been around forever in Superman lore. His Superman best friend, the bright-eyed, loyal photojournalist who's always tagging along an adventure. He's been a fan favorite in the comic, in the classic movies, the animated series, and more recently in My Adventure with Superman. Which, yeah, I actually like that version too. Props to the show. But if I'm being honest with you, I honestly don't really care about him in this movie. Why? Let me explain. First off, the guy we see in Batman v Superman, I have serious doubt that the real Jimmy Olsen, he's a CIA operative pretending to be a photographer. That's not Jimmy's style at all. He's usually the heart of the newsroom, not some undercover field agent with a hidden transmitter and a pistol tucked under his jacket. And let's be real, do intelligent agents ever use their real name when going undercover? Of course not. So the name Jimmy Olsen in the credit, that could easily just be a code name, a cheeky little Zack Snyder Easter egg, or a misdirection. It feels more like a meta wing than a canon character moment. So maybe just like Doomsday, the real Jimmy Olsen is probably still out there. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the actual Jimmy Olsen is alive somewhere in this universe, snapping photos at the Daily Planet, oblivious to the chaos happening in Nairobi. The movie never actually confirmed anything beyond that single guy being named Jimmy. It's barely even addressed again, so no funeral, no flashback, no emotional weight. That tells me this Jimmy was never intended to be the Jimmy that we all know and love. Yeah, I respect people who were upset, especially longtime fans, but I also think that this moment has been way overblown. Some fans treated it like Zack Snyder just spit on Superman's legacy, but in reality, it's just a minor side character getting taken out in a quick grounded espionage moment to show the tension of the world Superman now lives in. To me, that scene wasn't about Jimmy, it was about how far the world has fallen, how tangled Superman's present is with politics, surveillance, and paranoia. The moment was meant to show that even truth seekers and so-called good guys aren't safe anymore. So here are my final thoughts. So yeah, was it a bold move? Sure. Did it anger fanboys? Absolutely. But for me, it didn't ruin anything. I didn't feel betrayed. I wasn't heartbroken. I don't think that this was some deep violation of the Superman mythos. If anything, it was just another way of showing how dangerous and morally complex this new world has become. And again, I'm still holding onto the idea that the real Jimmy Olsen is out there somewhere and alive and well. Probably dodging laser beam and filing photos for Perry White. So until then, maybe we should get a confirmation. I'm not sweating it. Alright, let's talk about Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Let me just start by saying this. I love Amy Adams as Lois Lane. Like seriously, I really love her portrayal. She's strong, intelligent, fearless, and emotionally grounded. Everything Lois Lane should be. And I'll say it again, she's 100% better than Margaret Kidder. And yeah, I said it, fight me if you want. I still don't understand why so many people go out of their way to hate on her performance. One of the most common complaints I keep seeing is, she has no purpose in the movie. She just get in the way. She has zero chemistry with Henry Cavill. Like what? Have we been watching the same movie? Lois Lane actually plays a crucial role in the narrative of Batman v Superman. She isn't just some background character like Margaret Kidder. She actively digging into the truth from the very beginning. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have known anything about what really happened in Africa. She's the one who connects the dots from the special bullet to the cover-up and then straight to Lex Luthor. She literally unravels the conspiracy while Superman is getting blamed for everything. She's the investigative journalist we already known her to be. Brave, relentless, and driven by truth. That is Lois Lane. That is her purpose. And her chemistry with Henry Cavill is there. The argument that Amy Adams and Henry Cavill has no chemistry is one of the weirdest things I have ever heard. Just because they're not quipping like in the MCU couple or doing rom-com banter doesn't mean they're lifeless. Their chemistry is subtle, mature, and grounded in motion. It's quiet but powerful. Take that bathtub scene for example. It's not flashy or overly romantic, but it feels intimate and real. You can feel the love between them, the way she let her guard down around him, the way he genuinely smiles and relaxes when he's with her. It's a soft human and honestly kind of beautiful. Plus, Amy Adams slays in every scene, whether she's chasing leads, facing danger, comforting Clark, or standing up for the truth. Amy Adams kills it. She's not some damsel in distress, even when she finds herself in danger. She never feels weak. She's always trying to help, even when the world is falling apart. That's who Lois is. Amy Adams perfectly nails the character. So here are my final thoughts. So yeah, I'll say it loud and clear. Amy Adams is one of the best Lois Lane we ever had, and the hate she gets is completely undeserved. So if you think that she has no purpose in this movie, then you either weren't paying attention or you came up with a bias and refused to see past it. She plays an important role in the story, not just as Superman's love interest, but as a truth seeker, a fighter, and a human anchor for Clark. And honestly, we need more portrayal like her in a superhero film. Intelligent, capable women who don't need to scream or throw punches to have impact. Alright, so let's talk about Perry White. Okay, look, I know that I didn't bring up Lawrence Fishburne Perry White back in my Man of Steel review, but this time I'm gonna talk about him because he deserves some serious love. Let me just say it straight. Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White is underrated as hell. He's so snarky, sarcastic, and sharp. He's not your typical old school newspaper boss. He's more grounded, and he doesn't take crap from anyone. The way he delivered those snarky one-liner and shut people down, he's absolutely perfect. You can feel the weight of a man who's been in the newsroom trenches for the year and still has to keep the Daily Planet afloat in a world where journalism is dying. His sarcasm is top tier too, because let's be real, the way he says nobody cares about Clark Kent taking on a Batman, it's blunt, it's dismissive, and it's real. He's not wrong either. He's dealing with a world where clicks and chaos dominate headline, and you can see how that frustrated the old school newsman in him. Plus, he feels like a real boss. Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White isn't just a caricature, he's a believable editor-in-chief, juggling the pressure in running a paper while still trying to protect his reporters. He gave Lois space to do her work, even when it puts her at risk. He questions Clark's motive, but deep down you can tell that he still respects him. He's tough, but he cares. There's even a small but powerful moment in the movie where he's looking for Lois after the bombing. He just doesn't say much, but the concern is written all over his face. The subtle emotion, that acting. Honestly, we need more of him. That's probably my only complaint about this movie. We don't get enough of Perry White. Lawrence Fishburne is just too good to be used in the background. Every scene he's in, he owns. I would love to see more of the room drama, more back and forth with Clark, and more of him pushing Lois to uncover the truth. He got the voice, the presence, and the attitude to be the iconic version of Perry White, and he already is in my book. So here are my final thoughts. Lawrence Fishburne brought Perry White into the modern era without losing the core of the character. He's sharp, commanding, sarcastic, and quietly compassionate. A newsroom boss who felt like he could actually exist in the real world today, juggling journalistic integrity with modern chaos. So yeah, he nailed it. Underrated, underappreciated, and honestly, we needed way more of him. Alright, so let's talk about Jeremy Iron as Alfred. I love Jeremy Iron as Alfred so much, no question. He brought something really fresh and compelling to the role. A mix of wit, warmth, weariness, and wisdom, all wrapped up in that sharp British sarcasm that only Jeremy Iron can deliver flawlessly. He's so snarky, sarcastic, and always spot on. This Alfred isn't just some proper quiet butler in the corner. He's snarky, he's sharp, and he's not afraid to call Bruce Wayne out of when he's spiraling. Lines like, "That's how it starts, the fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness," that's not a dialogue, that's a parental concern. He's pleading with Bruce to snap out of his vengeance driven obsession, not out of duty, but out of love. To me, he's more than just a butler, he's a father figure. What I really appreciated was how this Alfred feels less like a servant and more like a family, like an old war buddy and a father rolled into one. He's clearly been by Bruce's side through hell and back, and you can feel that long history between them without needing any flashback or exposition. He's the voice of reason in Bruce's darkness. He's the one stitching up his wound literally and emotionally. He's the only one Bruce actually listened to. Their chemistry in Batman v Superman is completely phenomenal. It's subtle, it's mature, and deeply human. The moment with Alfred quietly says he's not our enemy shows just how much Alfred still believes in Bruce's better self, even when Bruce doesn't. And plus, a modern take that just worked. Jeremy Iron Alfred is a bit more hands-on than past version. He's working on the Bat Tech, guiding the Batwing remotely, helping track Lex. He's not just polishing silverware in the background. This Alfred is part of the mission. He's also got that perfectly dry humor that balances Bruce's grim intensity, whether he's teasing him about his love life or of subtly criticizing his worldview. Alfred never loses that edge of humanity that Batman so desperately needs. Plus, his portrayal is on par with Michael Caine, maybe even more my style. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Michael Caine, he was legendary, but Jeremy Iron, he's right up there, maybe even my personal favorite. He doesn't get much screen time as he deserves, but every moment he's on screen, he owns it. His presence is calm, commanding, and full of quiet pain. You can feel the years of watching Bruce go down in the dark path, and he's still there, always. I honestly wish we got more of him in the future project before Jeremy Iron get retired or, God forbid, passes away. He brought gravitas and charm to the role, and his version of Alfred deserved more recognition. So here are my final thoughts. Jeremy Iron is not just a good Alfred, he's a great Alfred. A voice of reason, a father, a partner in the fight, and most of all, a man who never stopped believing in Bruce Wayne. Alright, so Tao Okamoto as Mercy Graves. Honestly, I was genuinely surprised to see Tao Okamoto in this movie after knowing her from the Wolverine. She got the present, that cool, composed energy that make you want to know more about her character the moment she's on the screen. And even though her screen time was brief, she did a fine job portraying Mercy Graves. She felt like a character was important, someone who carried the power and influence in the next world. She had this calm but mysterious demeanor, and for a character who doesn't speak much, Tao made her feel like there was a lot more going on beneath the surface. Now, I'll be honest, I was kind of expecting a Mercy more in line with the DC Animated Universe version. The badass, no nonsense assistant, bodyguard with fighting skills to match, the Mercy who could stand toe to toe with people if she had to. So, yeah, when this version ended up being more of a poised executive assistant than a martial art powerhouse, I was a bit let down, but still, there was a lot more potential to evolve her character in future films. I was hoping that maybe we get to see that transformation, her stepping into a more active role, maybe even reveal her loyalty isn't as straightforward as it seemed. But her death felt like a missed opportunity. They killed her off. That moment during the Capitol bombing, when you realize that she's in that room, just hit me with pure disappointment. I remember sitting there like, wait, seriously? That's it? She had so much potential, and they just wipe her out without even giving her a proper arc or a moment of depth. It's kinda sad and frustrating because she could have played a bigger role in Lick's scheme or even become something greater on her own. But maybe, just maybe, that she's still out there. Look, it's the DCEU. If anyone can come back in some mysterious way, it's Mercy, right? Who knows? Maybe she survived the explosion off screen, maybe Lex had her uploaded into an artificial intelligence or cloned as some hyper advanced assistant, or even turn her into some meta-human version of Mercy like we have seen in other DC interpretation. I'm not giving up though, I want to see that. So here are my final thoughts about what I think about her. Tao Okamoto, she looked that part. She carries herself with grace and mystery. She deserved way more than what we got. And honestly, her early exit is one of my biggest disappointment in the film, second only to how little screen time Perry White had. Mercy could have been a total game changer, and if that multiverse ever opened that door again, maybe we should bring her back. So yeah, that's all for my discussion on the characters. Now I'm gonna discuss about the pros and cons of the movie. Alright, so let's get this out of the way. I genuinely think that this movie is great. Not ironically, not a so bad it's good kind of way like, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. This movie is one of the most boldest, most ambitious superhero films ever made, and it doesn't get nearly the credit it deserves. The story is not actually complicated. So let's kill this myth right now. The story is not hard to understand. I know that there's this weird reputation that, this movie is confusing, it's all over the place, but honestly, it's really not. It's just ask the audience to pay attention. And no, this isn't me going on all Rick and Morty fans saying you need to have an higher IQ to understand this movie. No, you don't need that. You just need to take off the blindfold and stop parroting whatever pretentious film bros are saying on the internet. And you just need to watch the movie with fresh eyes. It's not deep in a very convoluted way. It's deep in thematic way. The movie is about fear, power, legacy, trauma, and hope, all wrapped into a superhero epic movie. So let it breathe, let it speak. The soundtrack is also great. Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL. They both did a great job with the soundtrack. The score is a masterpiece. Beautiful Lie, Must There Be a Superman, Is She With You, Day of the Dead. It's perfectly cinematic and it hits every emotional beat like a sledgehammer. It's not just great in film, it's legit perfect for a workout writing session or when you want to visualize iconic imagery in your head. The score will always elevate the movie into something mythic. Alright, so the visual and the cinematography, it's like a living graphic novel. Visually, Batman v Superman is stunning. It doesn't feel like your typical average Marvel style color graded safe bet blockbuster film. No, this feels like a handcrafted movie, like something in between a graphic novel and a Renaissance painting. You see the influence from Frank Miller's work, from Alex Ross, and even from biblical art. There's a grandeur, there's a scale, there's a composition. Every frame feels like it was designed, not just film. Larry Fong did a great job here. From the nightmare sequence to Bruce's origin to Superman godlike imagery. It's all felt like operatic without trying to be so corny. The action is brutal, raw, and cinematic. This isn't your quippy punchline every 10 seconds superhero action. This is raw, intense, and weighty. Every hit feels real. The Batman warehouse fight is still one of the best superhero fight scene I have ever seen on screen. Now, yes, it doesn't feel as high stake as Man of Steel, but that's not because Snyder lost its edge. It's because people complain too much about the collateral damage. So the studio forced a course correction that said, even with those constraints, the action still rocks. Best of all, no awkward humor shoved in to deflate the mood. This film let tension sit. It respects your intelligence, it respects its tone. The casting and performance, everyone brought it. I can't say this enough. The casting is elite. Henry Cavill is my Superman. He's misunderstood. And he's incredible. I love him. Ben Affleck surprised everyone and delivered one of the most intense and most grounded Batman ever. Gal Gadot made the most powerful first impression. That interest with the Issue With You team still gave me chills. Amy Adams is fantastic and criminally underrated as Lois Lane. Jesse Eisenberg gave us a wild but fascinating Lex Luthor. Not for everyone, but it's for me. I love him. Jeremy Iron, Lauren Fishburne, Tao Komodo, they're all great even if they are smaller roles. Everyone brought something unique to the table, and it all worked together to build this textured, layered universe. Okay, so here are my cons, here are my complaints. Honestly, none. And no, that's not even sarcasm. I genuinely believe that Batman v Superman is one of the most underrated, overhated superhero films ever made. The only flaw here isn't the movie, it's how it was treated. It's wild that how many people jump on the hate bandwagon without actually thinking for themselves. The internet echo chamber just keep repeating the same talking point all over again, and suddenly it became the truth. So instead of nitpicking the flaws I don't actually believe in, let's talk about the most annoying criticism that this movie gets and debunk them one by one. This scene has become one of the biggest punching bag, the gotcha moment that people think that this movie is completely stupid, dumb, and dull. But here's the truth, they missed the point. This scene is not about Batman stopping the fight because their mom have the same name. That's a very surface level criticism. What actually happened is that Bruce Wayne saw Clark not as an alien or a threat, but as a human, as someone with a mother, as someone with something to lose. For the first time, he realized that he became the thing that he was meant to destroy. That scene isn't dumb or stupid. It's tragic, it's emotional, it's powerful. So if you laugh, maybe you weren't watching. Maybe you just wanted to mock it because the internet told you so. Yes, technically, my friend told me this, and I was kind of sad to hear this because I thought it was great, but they think it was pretentious and edgy. But here's the truth: when they say that this movie is too edgy and pretentious, I think what they really meant is that this movie didn't spoon feed me everything and made me feel uncomfortable. Yes, this movie is more mature and serious than your typical average superhero flick. This movie deals with trauma, fear, power, politics, and morality. This movie asks what will really happen if a godlike being showed up in our world. To me, that's not edgy. That's thematic depth. And for pretentious, no, when you mean by the word pretentious, I'm talking to you, Talone. This movie is trying to appear smart without actually being smart. But Batman v Superman: The Dawn of Justice isn't pretending. This movie is ambitious, it is artistic, it's okay if you don't like that style, but don't call it pretentious just because it isn't a joke minute popcorn flick like the Marvel films. Well, maybe if you don't have an attention span of a goldfish or a TikToker, you could have give this movie a chance. Yes, the Ultimate Edition is long, but here's the thing. That's the complete version of the story. The theatrical cut, that's the studio fault. They cut out the most vital scene that explained characters' motivations, plot thread, and context. The Ultimate Edition fixes everything. And boring. Come on, this movie features a lot of interesting stuff, like Bruce Wayne running into the collapsing building, brutal Batmobile chase, Doomsday Rampage, one of the best Batman fight scene in history, Wonder Woman explosive debut, Superman final sacrifice, movie political themes, cinematography, everything about this movie is not boring. If you think that this movie is boring, I don't know what you're expecting. Are you expecting characters making jokes like in the Marvel films? Like, come on, guys, grow up. So this is one of the most common criticisms that I really hate a lot because the main complaint was that this movie was too slow. So which is it? The truth about this movie is that it isn't rushed, it's dense, it weaves together multiple arcs, Batman paranoia, Superman's growing identity crisis, Luthor's manipulation, the world divided opinion, and connect them all into larger mythological narrative. People say it tried to do much, but maybe that's not too rushed, that ambitious. Again, I rather watch a movie that's swing big than one that plays safe and forgettable. This is the one that frustrated me the most. People expect Superman to be the always smiling hands up on hip cartoon from the 50s, but this version of Clark is layered. He's wrestling with what is meant to be a symbol, what is meant to be good, in a world that is cynical and scared of him. This version of Superman isn't edgy, okay? He's human, he's dull, he hurt, he still saves everyone, and even those who reject him, he still sacrifices himself. That's not edgy, that's heroic. And yes, he still smiles, just not in a forced plastic way. When he does, it feels earned. And I swear, you guys don't even know the word edgy. You just throw it all around because it tries to make you look cool, but you just end up being a complete idiot. And the list goes on and on and on. I don't know about this. I'm so tired of debunking this. But you know what? It doesn't matter because what matters the most is that, at least I just enjoy the movie. I mean, there are people out there who also enjoy the movie without some whiny bitches in their ears telling them that, oh, this movie sucks or whatever. So what? So yeah, Batman v Superman is not a perfect movie, but the criticism it gets are often lazy, exaggerated, or flat out wrong. So if you're still parroting the same complaint in today's world without giving the film an honest rewatch, then maybe you're not criticizing the movie, you're just following the hate train. Take another look, watch the Ultimate Edition, go in with an open mind. You might discover a movie that actually has a lot more to say than most superhero films ever attempt. Alright, so that's all for today about the pros and cons. Now let's move to a different category. Alright, actually, no, it did not. It did the opposite. I'm gonna break this down. First off, can you define ruin? Because, you know, people love to throw around the phrases that this movie has ruined everything. Like it means something objective. But what they really mean is, it wasn't what they wanted, so it must be bad for everyone. What Zack Snyder did with Batman v Superman wasn't a betrayal of DC. It was an interpretation, a bold, mythic, interpretation. Adult interpretation. Not everyone has to like it, but that doesn't mean everything is wrong. DC always had multiple tones and versions. Campy Adam West, dark Frank Miller, wholesome super friend, violent injustice, thought-provoking Kingdom Come. DC isn't one tone, it's a multiverse of ideas, and Batman v Superman fits perfectly within the tradition. Okay, and second, Zack Snyder actually honored the source material. People love to claim that he didn't understand the characters, but that's simply false. Because Batman v Superman is packed with reference to The Dark Knight Return by Frank Miller, Kingdom Come by Mark Waid, the Death of Superman arc, the Injustice Timeline teaser, and Birthright for Lurk's personality, and more and more. So if anything, Snyder respected the comics so much that he tried to translate them with a mythological sense. The film is basically DC meets with Greek tragedy, complete with God, fallen heroes, and moral dilemmas. That's not ruining DC, that's elevating it, even if not everyone understood it at the time. Plus, this movie gave us a lot of incredible portrayals. Ben Affleck gave us one of the most physically intimidating and emotionally broken Batman ever. Henry Cavill portrayed a Superman who carries the burden of hope, not just the image. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman debut made fans scream in theater. You know that's true. And Hans Zimmer, of course, is more iconic. Does that sound like brand destruction or bold legacy building? And yes, of course the movie got a lot of hate, but so did Watchmen, Blade Runner, and The Shining at first. History always have full of misunderstood art. Audience sometimes reject what they don't expect, especially when it challenges their norm. But time has a way of revealing the truth, and over the years, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice has gained a strong cult following, and we appreciate whatever. The Ultimate Edition in particular shows fans and critics alike that this movie wasn't a mess. It was butchered for theater. The real film is layered, emotional, and political and poetic. So no, not at all. It didn't tarnish DC. It just tried to evolve it. It didn't play it safe. It didn't copy what Marvel was doing. It told a story about a hero, God and man, power and paranoia, love and legacy. That's not ruining the brand. That's risking everything to give DC its own voice in a crowded superhero market. So here are my final words. So here's the truth. Batman v Superman didn't destroy DC. The studio, the fanboys, the haters, they're the one who ruined everything. The real tragedy isn't in the movie. It's that we never got to see the full vision of what Zack Snyder had planned. But the film itself, well, it will stand the test of time. Because, love it or hate it, you still remember it. You talk about it, you still talk about it, and that's a sign of something powerful. Honestly, I don't think we will. At least not anytime soon. Because let's face it, today audience wanted amusement park, not art galleries. Studio chase what's safe, what marketable, what memeable, and too often that's mean cranking out content that entertains in the moment, but sadly disappears a week later. Batman v Superman wasn't made to be disposable. It was made to be dissected, debated, revisited. It asked the audience to think, to reflect, to sit in uncomfortable question about power, morality, legacy, and fear. And the sad truth is that kind of filmmaking scares the studio. It risks money, it sparks controversy, it doesn't fit nearly into a four-quadrant box. So instead of doubling down on bold mythic storytelling, the industry pivoted. They standed off the edge, they leaned into formulas, they stopped trusting audience to sit with silence and or feel weight or wrestle with meaning. Batman v Superman wasn't made for the algorithm. It was made for the bold, the patient, the curious, the passionate, for the fans who want to see superior treated with the skill of God and the pain of man. So no, we might not get more superior films like this, but maybe that's what makes this one special. At the end of the day, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is not just a superhero movie. It's a cinematic experience. It's bold, flawed, beautiful, misunderstood, and unapologetically ambitious. This isn't a film that holds your hand. It doesn't spoon feed you jokes or follow the formula. Instead, it challenges you. It presents these mythic characters, God, man, monsters, and asks what happens when you fear override hope. What does it truly mean to be good in a broken world? The story is layered, the themes are powerful, the cinematography is breathtaking, the score is legendary, and the cast is phenomenal. Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Jesse Eisenberg, Amy Adams, they all brought something memorable, something unique. It's not perfect, but greatness rarely is. People dismiss this movie too quickly, jump on bandwagon, or let online discourse dictate how they felt. But when you sit down, block out the noise, and actually watch it with an open mind, you realize it's not just underrated. It's one of the most daring comic book films ever made. It's not for everyone, that's okay, but it's everything for people like me. This movie means something. It still does. Maybe someday, when the world grows tired of the same repetitive, safe, and formulaic superhero stories, people will come back to this movie. They might still mock it, they might still misunderstand it, but I truly hope that somewhere out there, someone will watch it with a fresh eye and open heart, and they'll finally see what I saw. Something bold, something different, something unforgettable. Batman v Superman may not have been the movie everyone wanted, but for some of us, it was the movie we needed. Alright, so that's gonna do it for today. I hope you guys genuinely enjoyed this video. Seriously, this one took me a while. I spent an entire day editing, polishing, and making sure the script aligned with the visual the way I imagined it. It means a lot that you're here. I just hope that maybe, just maybe, that one or two people out there will watch Batman v Superman after this video. Not to mock it, not to post it on some circle jerking site. Yeah, I know this might happen. I know some folks will probably share this video just to clown me. And you know what? Go ahead! Make fun of me all you want, because at the end of the day, I'm sharing something I truly love. And if I can get even one person to see this movie with a fresh perspective, that's a win in my book. But hey, at least I get the views, right? This might be my last big movie review for a while. I got a few requests lined up, like Dark of the Moon, Prom Queen, and others, but I'm definitely going to take a break after this one. It's been a ride, so from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this kind of video and want to support my channel, don't forget to drop a like, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and passionate.